Welcome everyone to an eternity of basketball. We're about to start episode 69 on this day. An eternity of basketball is now on Instagram, so please follow our Instagram page. Check out everything that we post over there. Share it with your friends so we can get bigger in this network of ours. We're part of the Globally Ballin Network. Check out articles, audio, and video projects on the Globally Ballin Network. Of course, one of the shows there, AEOB. You got to catch that together with Hang Time and Rhonda. And on YouTube, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, well, the Globally Ballin YouTube channel, because starting tomorrow, Feb 14, all episodes 1 to 10 of AEOB will only be seen on the Globally Ballin YouTube channel. So we're going to migrate all our past episodes slowly to the Globally Ballin YouTube channel. Eternity of Basketball, anytime, anywhere, on the go. We're on Spotify, guys. You can listen to us even when you're in your car, you're hanging out in the waiting area. You can catch us on Spotify. And of course, Linktree/Globally Ballin. That's the link you need for everything that you want here on Globally Ballin and on AEOB. So now, let's start our episode. Let's dive right into it. Well, he's been in the news, especially in the past year, because the last dance of the Chicago Bulls, hey, that was his idea. He's the one. He's the reason that even happened. He won an Emmy Award for that. He was an import here in the Philippines back in 1986 for the Tanduay rum makers. Lots of stories to talk about, so we'll just introduce him right away. It's Andy Thompson. I'm Charlie Cuna, together with Noel Zarate and Sid Ventura. And Andy, welcome to our show.
Thanks, guys. I'm really happy to be here.
Of course, people remember Andy being here, playing for the red and white of Coach Turing Valenzuela, together with Mon Fernandez, Freddy Ubal, the rest of that championship crew. A bunch of great guys, some of the best in Philippine basketball history. But let's go all the way back. We're talking about history. Let's start from the start. You grew up in the Bahamas. You were born and raised in the Bahamas. And how does a guy from the Bahamas get into basketball?
Man, that's a great question. You know, I would probably have to give my brother Michael all of the credit for that, because for the most part, the Bahamas was known as a baseball nation. There were a couple of guys who broke out early and they got a chance to go and play in AAA and AA baseball. And eventually a couple of the guys went and actually played in the major leagues. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, as kids, when you see somebody make it, you want to try and follow in the footsteps of those guys who made it. So I was more of a baseball player all of my life until my brother, Michael, who was 4 years older than me, was discovered just by chance, pure luck, coincidence. His coach came over looking for another Thompson kid by the name of Charles Thompson. Charles Thompson was 6'7", like my brother. And he was an American coach looking for this Charles Thompson through the recommendations of another Bahamian guy playing in a high school in Miami. So the coach comes over looking for my brother, looking for Charles. He jumps in a cab and he calls up a friend of his before he jumps in the cab, and he says, the Thompson family that I'm looking for, where are they? And my brother only played church basketball, church league. Never played in high school in Nassau in the Bahamas, but he dominated the church league because it was just a lot of short people. And he really developed a reputation in church league. And so the church leagues at that time were bigger than high school basketball and all the other leagues. And so he got a little reputation as this tall, gangly kid who can dunk and block shots, grab like 30 rebounds in a game. And so this guy who the coach contacted, it must be the Thompsons. They're a really tall family. Everybody knows them. And he sent the coach to our house looking for Charles. He walks up, introduces himself. Hi, I'm Coach Caldwell, and I'm here. We talked about your son Charles coming over and playing basketball for me. My dad looks at the coach and goes, what are you talking about? I don't have a son named Charles. I said, what do you mean? We spoke about that. He said, my son's name's Michael. He says, you don't have a son? No. He says, Michael, come out here. Michael, 6'7", 17-year-old kid at the time, walks out of the room. True story. The coach goes, well, I didn't come for Michael, but I'll take him.
That's right.
And that's how
Michael a great story.
Discovered. He was discovered purely by chance. Of course, my dad thought the coach was crazy, and the coach left his name and number. And I had an older brother who was into baseball, and he got a little exposure with the Dodgers back in the day. And he pleaded with my dad. He said, let Michael go. He doesn't have any future here. He's not going to go to college. If he doesn't make it, he can always come back home. And
Right.
with the encouragement of my older brother, my dad relented, sent Michael to Miami, and as you know, the rest is history. That's where Michael
Right.
learned how to play, and that
How
opened the
about how
doors
about
for me
how
and
about
everybody.
Andy? How about Andy Thompson? When did Andy Thompson start gravitating towards basketball?
Only after Michael went to high school and started really playing well in Miami. That's when I went over and watched a game in high school in Miami, and I saw cheerleaders. There were like 2,000
Okay.
people in the gym. Because in the Bahamas, you played most of your games outdoors. There were no gyms. It was just bush league, right? And so when I saw organized basketball on an American soil with a hardwood floor, and I was like, wow. And right then, when he was 7, I was 13. I switched my focus more to basketball and left baseball alone.
All right. And you followed his footsteps. He was eventually playing at the University of Minnesota, where he became the #1 pick in the NBA, in the NBA draft for Portland. And then a couple of years later, there you are in Minnesota as well. How did that feel, trying to follow the footsteps of Michael, considering, he became the #1 pick?
Well, once again, it's probably one of I call it a very fortunate mistake, if there's such a thing as a fortunate mistake. I actually got a scholarship to play at the University of South Florida. It's in Tampa, and I really didn't like it. We played in a makeshift auditorium that was in a convention center. We really didn't have a home court. And once again, I went to see my brother play in his last college game. I was a freshman. He was a senior at that time. And I went up and I watched him play against Michigan and I think in Indiana in an 18,000 seat, arena with fans and national TV audience. I was like, whoa. So I was used to playing in the Sun Belt Conference with 4,000 or 5,000 people. I go to the Big Ten and there's 18,000 people in this arena. I get seduced by the bright lights. And right then I said, Michael, do you think I can play in this league? He was like, yeah, why don't you transfer? And so I went back and I asked my coach if I can transfer. And of course, he was so mad at me. He was so mad. He didn't want to let me go. Eventually, he relented. And then I transferred and I spent the next 4 years at the University of Minnesota, which I say was a mistake because I got there. I was a big fish in a small pond. When I got to Minnesota, I was a small fish in a big pond. They had so many good players that were better than me. And my career was just a series of stops and goes, ups and downs, and a lot of people lies there.
Well, and not to mention the weather, of course, coming from Miami going to Minnesota.
I was going to mention.
I didn't think that through. I didn't think that one through.
Yeah. But I did see. I was able to catch a photo of you, in one of your Minnesota teams. You wearing the puka shell, so the necklace, which Michael Thompson made famous. He would wear it even during the official NBA games. But that some guys went to the NBA from that team. You had Kevin McHale, you had Randy Brewer, Trent Tucker, Jim Peterson, guys that you played with and who eventually played in the NBA with your brother. Let's speed it along. After that, after your career at the University of Minnesota, where did you first play overseas? Or did you play in the CBA or anywhere in the States?
I tried out in the CBA and I was in Wyoming. And while I was there, I had a pretty good chance to make the team and I hurt my ankle. And back 36 years ago, if you're in the CBA, 40 years ago, there was no injured reserve. They sent you home and they said, okay, when you get better, you come back. They sent me home and they called me back, I think about 4 months later and said, hey, we want you back. Can you come back? But I was in a little town called Casper, Wyoming. Literally, the town folded up at 5 o'clock. There was nowhere to go, nothing to do. It was the most depressing town I had ever been in my life. And I was like, no way I'm going back to that team. I didn't want to go back. And then the next spring is when I signed a contract to play in France. I played in France for 2 years.
Okay.
How'd you wind up in the Philippines?
Philippines was interesting. I came back from France wanting to try out one more time in the NBA. And my agent got me a tryout with the Seattle Supersonics. And I went to a camp prior to the veterans camp, just so the coach can get to see me play and see if I could have a chance to make it. And while I was in camp, they signed Dale Ellis, who was one of the greatest three-point shooters of all time.
Right.
Nate McMillan, who was a rookie. I was actually Nate McMillan's rookie. I shared a room with him. And once again, bad timing, man. They got Dale Ellis and they got Nate McMillan, way better than me. I get cut. my agent says, well, I heard about this job in the Philippines. And I was like, Philippines? Do they play basketball in the Philippines? I had no idea there was any professional
right.
in the Philippines. And so right after I got cut from Seattle, he said, if you want to go, they want you on the plane in like 3 days. He said, you got a day to think about it. I wasn't sure about it. I prayed about it. And the next day I called him up and I said, he says, they paying $10,000 a month. I said, sign me up.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Right.
That was a lot of money back then.
Yeah,
A lot of money.
Yep.
And then so you didn't know anything about the Philippines. I'm
No.
sure you were pleasantly surprised to know that the weather was something like the Bahamas, probably. That nice, warm, fuzzy weather over here. I'm sure you like that. But when you got here, did you hear that you were replacing a guy who was averaging 33 points and 19 rebounds, and yet they were not happy with his performance? They kicked him out.
You remembered all of this? I can't believe you guys must do a lot of research, man. Yeah.
We're still with the PBA, and Charlie's a big Tanduay fan.
Yeah, I was a Tanduay
man.
fan. I told you about
when
it.
I heard they cut a guy averaging 33 and 19, I was like, what in the heck do they think I'm Michael Jordan? I was like, what did they expect me to do? I had no idea that there were guys who were averaging 35 and 40. So 33 was actually underperforming when you came to Billy Ray Bates and Rob Williams and maybe one other player. So I had no idea that you took 25 shots a game, you play all 48 minutes. And so I had no idea. I just thought if they expected me to average 33 and 19, I'll probably be cut in 3 days.
You had to be Superman to be an import here back then.
Yeah. Well, for a little context, the guy replaced Benny Anders. From my understanding, he developed liquid in his knees, and so his knees were a little shot, and his team was 0-4 at that time. So
that's right.
Yeah.
You came in, Andy. The team was winless, and then you went on a winning streak. How did you? Obviously, so you come here, you get here at the airport. They bring you to practice. You meet your teammates, and then you probably have your first scrimmage. What was your first impression with this bunch of guys? Freddie and Ellie and Ramon, all these guys.
Man, I was in awe. I was just such a whirlwind, right? Because the flight is like 23 hours, and so you don't sleep much because you're so excited. And then when you get there, it's extremely hot and very humid, which I didn't mind, but it was just hot. And then I get taken straight to practice. So without any stretching or any type of getting ready, I go to practice and I get thrown into the lines then, and I meet all these guys. And Rob Williams was the other import who was really nice. And I tried to do my best. I think I practiced well. I played well. And then later that night, we went and watched a game. So once again, it's 12 hours difference. And so
thereabouts. Yeah.
To me, I was already up 24 hours. I remember falling asleep in the second quarter watching a game at the Ultra. I was so tired.
Yeah.
Right. And then we had one more practice the next day. And then during that practice, I tweaked a calf muscle a little bit, just tweaked it. It was, because I wasn't stretched. I wasn't ready in game mode, in game shape. So I wasn't at my best when I played the next night. So 2 nights later, after I arrived, we played our first game. And I remember playing really badly the first half. I think I had 8 points on like 4 of 12 shooting. We were down. And I remember my head was down in the locker room, and Rob comes up to me. Rob Williams says, "Hey man, I've seen you practice, man." He said, "Hey Judge," he used to say, "Hey," he's call everybody Judge. "Hey Judge, you can play. I've seen you practice." He said, and he gave me the best advice in my life, and I pass this on to everybody I see in the NBA. He said, there are 2 ways you can get cut here in the PBA. You shoot too little, or you shoot too much. If I was you, I'd start shooting. You got this.
Right.
And he patted me on the back, and that gave me the confidence I needed. And I came out the second half, and I think I scored 18 or 20 points in the second half. And I picked up Rob's, and we came down to a last-second shot. Rob took the last-second shot, missed it. I grabbed the rebound, took a dribble, got a jump hook, and I hit a shot at the buzzer. And I won that. And that started our win streak.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. It was pretty good run. And speaking about shooting too much, Rob Williams had a tendency to do that. Can you tell us a little about Rob Williams and really how good he was, because he was a first round pick in the NBA, just couldn't stick it. But he had been in the Philippines a couple of conferences before that. He had won the best import award already. But what are you, aside from the fact that he gave you the best advice about playing basketball, what else do you remember about Rob Williams?
Rob was just a joy to be around. The guy was just, had an infectious personality. He was funny. He was insightful. He told the truth. He told it as he saw it. And he had a lot of answers for everything. If I wanted to find a place to go buy, groceries, if I didn't know, who to date, well, where to shop, he had an answer for everything, man. And he was so helpful to me in that first couple of weeks, finding my way around the city, who to trust, who not to trust, introducing me some of the guys on the team, and telling me about some of the things they like to do on the court. Just a great teammate, man. And I miss him. I miss him all the time, because some of the best stories I always tell people is my time in the Philippines, spending it with Rob.
Yeah. Andy, your time here, that's the third conference of 86. That perhaps was one of the best collection of talents in terms of the imports in one conference in the PBA. You had Billy Ray Bates playing for Ginebra. Then you had Dexter Schaus, and you had several players from the University of Houston, Michael Young, Alvin Franklin,
Benny
and
Anders.
Rob Williams, Benny Anders, who you eventually replaced. When you got here and you saw this lineup of fellow imports, what was your first reaction to that?
I was like, wow, because some of these guys were ex-NBA players. Very seldom did I meet other ex-NBA players when I played in France, because a lot of the ex-NBA players who played in Europe at that time played in the top leagues, top divisions. I wasn't in the top division in Europe. So I never played against ex-NBA players. I played against them in summertime or in summer leagues or whatever, but playing against ex-NBA players of that caliber, and these guys were young. I knew Billy Ray Bates because he played with my brother. So I knew Billy Ray Bates in Portland way before he got to the Philippines. So I knew what Billy Ray was capable of. I knew Rob Williams was capable of. Michael Hackett was another guy who didn't put up big numbers, but man, he was just a load to guard, because he was 6'5", 265 pounds, and just an immovable object.
At least,
So man, listen, man, when I saw what I was up against every night, I knew I had to get my rest, and I thought, one thing I've been given that most of these guys don't have, I have a motor, and I can run, because I was in shape. And so I remembered that I'm going to run whoever guards me up and down the floor so much so that by the fourth quarter, I'm going to still have a little bit in my tank, and so that I can take advantage when they start grabbing their shorts. I can get easy, a couple of easy baskets and just run the floor. Because let me be honest, man. I was not the most skilled and the best, not even close to being one of the best shooters or players. But I had a work ethic. I knew the game. I was smart. I knew how to take advantage of angles, and I had a great teammate in Rob who was not afraid to shoot and take a lot of the big important shots. And that took a lot of pressure off of me, because I was not that type of player at that time to take every big shot in the game. That was Rob's responsibility. So I was great to have him on my team, that I can say, bring us home, Rob, because that's what you're great at.
Yeah, that's right. Noel.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, Amanda. You mentioned Rob Williams, but among the local teammates, who do you remember making the biggest impression on you?
Man, Mon Fernandez. Mon was the smoothest guy. I played against Alex English a couple of times, just fooling around. He's like Alex English.
Wow.
Smooth as silk, skinny, who knew the game. You think you can figure him out, and then he pulls up quickly for a quick shot, or he drop steps and comes underhand. He was just one of the trickiest best players that I've seen, and I'm so happy that he was on my team, because he was the only Filipino player that was averaging 20 a game. So thank God he took up a lot of the scoring slack that I wasn't able to give every night, because he was just so good. He was the best Filipino player in the league at that time. El Presidente is his nickname.
El Presidente.
One of his many nicknames. He had a bunch of them, but El Presidente was one of them. He was the best player. He won MVP that year, but you also had the best small forward that year as well in Freddy Ubalde. You had JB Yango, and then you had the two little guys, Onchi de la Cruz and Willie Generalao, who kicked your ass on defense. If you know, especially Onchi, and you had Vic Sanchez backing you up too.
Yes.
Yeah, man, I wish I could see those guys. You bring them back a lot of good memories, man. Those guys. Yeah. And here's the thing, man. You know, Filipino people are the most friendly people in the world. They're the nicest people I have ever met. And I've been all over the world with the NBA, and I've lived all over the world. But I have never met more of a friendly people on the planet than Filipinos. Period. And that's whether they're there or in the United States, wherever they are. And my teammates just accepted me and embraced me and treated me like they had known me for years. And that made me feel so accepting and gave me much more confidence in the beginning than I probably would have if I went to another team in Europe. Because in Europe, there's a disconnect with the language, there's a disconnect with the culture. But for whatever reason, most of the guys spoke English. And then the culture was just so embracing, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned all of the names that you did. Charlie did, of course. JV, Onchi, Willie. They all guested on this show already. That's probably the common denominator for everything.
The one guy we haven't gotten on is Padim. We haven't gotten Padim for some reason.
Yeah, we haven't gotten Padim. He's shy.
Yeah, Padim Israel hasn't been on the show.
I still remember these names. That's crazy. I still remember these names, man. I only played there for 4 months, but the names are embedded in me.
Right. Well, sticking with the locals, I mean, who among the locals in the PBA gave you the toughest time in your 4 months in the league?
If you can recall.
If you can recall. Your opponents.
There was a guy, I think, who played, a small forward, who played for Great Taste. He was just really physical. I can't remember.
Arnie Tuadlis? Was this Arnie Tuadlis?
Yeah. Arnie was with Alaska that year.
Maybe Manny Victorino.
Yeah, no, he said it,
but small forward.
Where was Abe King? Where was Abe King at the time?
87. Abe was already
Abe King
with
was Great Taste.
Oh, Great Taste.
Yeah,
it might have been Abe King.
Great Taste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the most part, most Filipinos, as you know, they didn't guard any imports. But every now and then,
right? I mean, Joel was injured.
You know, but him, I remember him.
Yeah. How about Coach Turo Valenzuela? What do you remember about him, and how was he compared to the previous coaches you had in the States and in France?
Hey man, he was an interesting character. I don't want to say too much, but he was very low key. He wasn't a screamer. He didn't get his points across by screaming and anything like that. He just basically coached the game But it was just an interesting time in the PBA at that time, right? Where certain things would happen in a game, certain calls would be made, and you're like, what's going on here? I remember Rob telling me, he said, hey, if you see something go down tonight, keep playing. Don't question it. Just keep playing. I said, what are you talking about? He was like, there's some bets going on. I was like, bets going on? What are you talking about, man? So he's like, hey, don't ask any questions. Just go with the flow. And anyway, so I remember a couple of times in a game where things were going south and they should have been going north. And Rob's like, just play, brother. Just play. And coach would be the same. Coach would be like, just play the game.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. That's interesting, man. I hope we could dive deeper into that. But wait,
we'll probably do that next time.
You didn't know the PBA was like some of the games were fixed.
Well, I've heard some allegations, but of course I don't know if they were really proven.
Stories like that, but I'm a lawyer, and I always say if I wasn't there, I didn't see the evidence, I'm not going to say it happened, right? So, but of course, I mean, I guess it happens everywhere. But go ahead, Sid.
Go ahead, Sid.
Sid, are you there? Oh, his internet's been shaky.
His internet's a little choppy.
It's what.
Well, that's what I heard. I can't prove it, right? There's no way you can prove it, but it's just like you hear these things when you're an import. Like, hey, man, just keep playing no matter what you see.
Yeah.
All right. I don't think Sid's with us yet at this point.
Yeah, I was gonna say before the conference ended, you injured your calf. Was it your calf? No, your knee. It was your knee, right? You got an injury.
Okay.
And how did that happen? Was it during practice or was it during an actual game?
No,
I can hear you guys.
Hackett.
Okay.
Michael Hackett fell on my knee and
Okay.
and it buckled. And that injury partially tore my meniscus and caused some damage. I was able to finish up the season, but that pretty much was the end of my career, because once that happened, I knew that was it. I was done.
Mm-hmm. And you do you recall me? Of course, Michael Young was one of the better imports. He led his team to the finals against Bates and Hackett. But Michael Young, remember, beat you guys, or I said beat us because I was a Tanduay fan, on the last second 3-point shot to eliminate Tanduay from finals contention. Do you recall that game where they set up that play? Michael Young goes around the screen, gets that almost near half court, and he hits a lefty 3-pointer to eliminate Tanduay from finals contention. Is that something that you still recall?
Michael was the toughest guard for me in the PBA. He was a ridiculous, man, because he had a handle. He was a guard and a forward. He can play both positions,
right?
And he can shoot the three. So how do you defend a guy who can shoot the three, who could take you off the dribble, post you up, who's bigger and stronger than me? And I would rather guard Billy Ray, because Billy Ray can do some crazy things at the time.
Okay,
right?
that's different. Yeah.
But Mike, and also Michael, as you know, Michael took 35 shots a game every night.
Yeah. Right.
I remember one night he scored, I think he scored 50, but he took 45 shots. So it shows you how many shots he had to do to get to 50. So I hated guarding Michael because it was just impossible. I just hoped that he would miss when I tried to, put my hand up there. But I remember that play, and we were down 3-0, and I knew at that point in time there was no coming back. And he, it was like poetic. He ended our misery, man, because I knew there was no way they're going to beat them.
Right. Yeah. Well, they made it to the finals, but they did lose to Ginebra. JB Yango's watching, by the way. Your former teammate. He's watching right now.
What's up?
We got a message from one of our fans. Manuel Roero is saying that you used to have a flat top.
Yeah.
when you were playing. Sorry, that was Paul Lim, who actually said he used to have a flat top hairstyle. I mean, that was probably the thing back in the day.
That was the thing. Yeah, that was the thing. Yeah. And you mentioned it earlier, Andy. You said you were in good shape. You could run for days during that time, and it showed because you really looked like you were in game shape. But that happened to your knee, and then for some reason you guys weren't able to make it to the finals, and so the team wasn't able to complete the three straight, which we call a grand slam here in the Philippines. But so you ended your career pretty much after that. You didn't play any more competitive basketball after that knee injury?
No, my knee I needed to have surgery, and I put off the surgery because I didn't just want to, rehab, knowing that no one's going to give a contract to any player back then coming off a knee surgery, right? That was like no way, because when you think about surgery now, you can come back within 6 months or a year, depending on what it is. But back then, if you had surgery on your knee, it was pretty much a death sentence. And so I didn't want to have surgery right away. And this is what happened, guys. So I leave the Philippines. I go back to Portland. My brother, who had just gotten traded from Portland to San Antonio. So he's in San Antonio. And I'm in his house, taking care of his house, hanging out. And I go to see my girlfriend in New York City. Right. So I went to see my girlfriend in New York City. She was in New York. She took a job at the NBA. So while I'm there visiting her, she says, "Hey, I heard there's an opening for a PA position at NBA Entertainment." I said, "What is NBA Entertainment and what is a PA?" A PA is a production assistant. I didn't know anything about the NBA or about this production assistant position. But while I was there, she arranged for me to sit down with the executive producer, Don Sperling, and he interviewed me, and we connected, we bonded, and he said, "Hey, there is not an opening now, but if something opens up in 2 or 3 months, I'll give you a call."
Right. What were you doing in between? I mean, from after retiring from basketball completely, hanging out at your brother's house in San Antonio until you got to the NBA, what was Andy Thompson doing?
I was trying to figure out what to do with my life, because my knee was blown. I knew I had to figure out something pretty quickly. But in the meantime, I knew I had this interview in my back pocket, and I was hoping that would come through. But I remember, this is really interesting. I remember a friend of mine who I wasn't really doing anything. Fortunately, I had saved the money that I made in the Philippines, so I was living off of that. And he got a job for me as a sanitation driver on a garbage truck.
Okay.
And I said, wait a second. You think I want to be like a garbage truck driver? Like, that's not, it's like, no way I'm taking that job. And I remember I called my brother and I complained to him and I said, can you believe this guy wanted me to work in a sanitation truck? And my brother said, so why didn't you take the job? I said, I don't want to be a garbage truck driver. He said, that's not your career. That's just a job that'll tide you over until you figure out what to do with your career. So, but you think you're better than a garbage truck driver? He said, put your pride on the shelf, put your ego on the shelf and take the job until you find something that you really can, you're interested in. And I really struck like a thunderbolt. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I need the money. It paid a lot of money. And I said, you're right, Michael. This is not my career. I'll take the job till I can figure out what to do.
And you did.
The next day I call the guy up and I say, hey, I'll take the job. He said, man, you missed it by like 14 hours.
Wow.
The job was somebody else took the job.
Right.
And here's the kicker, though. Here's the kicker. Later on that afternoon, after I was like depressed and I was like, man, what do I do? I get a call from the executive producer at NBA Entertainment. He said, Andy, it's Don Sperling. He said, do you still interested in the job as a PA in New York? I said, yeah. He said, then get here in 2 weeks and the job is yours.
Wow.
So just like that, I went from not having a job to getting broken and saying, take the career, take the job until you figure out what you can do with your career, being humbled, accepted the job. The job was no longer there, then getting the job of my dreams, which is what I'm still doing 35 years later.
That was meant for you. That was really meant for you.
Meant for you then.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to go down memory lane. We have some photos that we got, some of which you contributed, Andy. Let's look at them one by one and just see whatever you remember. Here's the one at Minnesota. One of those.
Wow.
Of course, obviously, you can see you there with the necklace.
I can see Randy Brewer.
Man, we have a lot of good players on that team, right? There's 1, 2, 3, 4 ex NBA players on that team. Wow.
I see Trent Tucker, Randy Brewer. Is that Jim Peterson, number 20?
Jim Peterson, yeah.
And who's the fourth guy?
The 33 was John Wiley. The 33 is Zeb Howell. He never played anywhere, but there's a kid there, John Wiley, number 35, standing next to Randy Brewer.
Yeah.
This guy was a 6'7", 6'10" small forward who could shoot threes, and he never made it. He was better than probably Jim Peterson and better than Trent, but had a problem with the weed.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a lot of them went that way.
Couldn't stay off weed, man. But this guy was unbelievable, but he just couldn't stay off weed. Amazing talent.
Trying to remember. You're wearing number 21 here. Is there a specific reason that you chose 21?
No, I don't even know why I chose 21.
I thought maybe Michael Cooper.
No, I had that number ever since I was in high school.
Okay. Oh, that's not about Coop. Okay.
Yeah, or something like if I could just play half as good as my brother's stuff, right?
43, a little less.
Yeah.
Number 43, Michael Thompson. Okay, so there you are, and then your coach over here, the guy in the middle. What's his name? I listed it down.
Jim Dutcher.
How was he? How as your college coach, did he get on you? Was he a relentless kind of guy? One of those demanding Bobby Knight types?
No, nobody's like Bobby Knight. Thank goodness. He was just the opposite. He was a very good X and O guy. He was a really good game planner, game practitioner. I wish he would have played me more, but
yeah.
But right. I mean, you look at that. You look at certain positions. The center position, solid, right? Nobody's taking Randy's job. Trent, one of the best shooters in the history of the NBA. Nobody's taking his job, and he and I are the same height. And the two power forwards on the sides of Brewer, they were starting power forwards, and then there's me with a bunch of other guys that are 6'5" to 6'7", tweeners, right? that was the only position that got substituted in and out the entire season. So the 1 through 4, 5, and 2 was solid. The 3 position, we rotated in and out. Somebody had a bad game, somebody else would come in. If that person had a bad game or 2, the next person would. So we never really established an identity for the position I played in college, which was small forward.
And Trent Tucker's the reason there's a 0.4 rule in the NBA, right? Because
That's
he
right.
made that 3-pointer for the
That's
Knicks.
right.
What's the next photo? Next photo, please. Let's move it on. Here you
There's
are.
Turo.
There's the flat top. And there's Coach Turo Valenzuela.
Yeah, this coach.
And then there's Zal De La Tosa on your right. And the guy on
Did
your left.
he bring you to some of his watering holes when you were here?
No, back then I didn't drink. So he didn't. You know what they used to call me? They used to call me the Rev. Because I didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't go to any nightclubs. You know, I wasn't crazy like a lot of the guys all over the city. So they called me the Rev because I tried to keep it straight and narrow.
So you didn't hang out with Billy Ray.
You didn't hang out with Billy Ray, that's for sure.
No.
Well, where did you hang out when you were in the Philippines? Where did you hang out? What was your favorite places to go to?
Listen, man, I realized because I ran a lot and we played 3 games a week. And then when you weren't playing, you're practicing. I remember the first week I got there, I thought you can, go out and buy all these great crocodile shoes and all these great suits for $50 because it was like these really good Hong Kong tailors. You can buy custom made beautiful suits for $50 or $100. And I remember Rob said, dude, while you're here, you got to go out and buy all these shoes and buy all these suits because you ain't going to be able to get the same thing in the United States. So that first week he took me around and I remember coming back after spending 2.5 hours, 3 hours in tailor shops and shoe shops. I was exhausted. And the next day trying to play, I had nothing in the tank in the fourth quarter. And I realized
because of shopping.
Yeah, I was on my feet walking around. And I remember that, listen, I said, if I want to last in the Philippines, I need to stay off of my feet. So I remember after every practice, I would go home, literally get off my feet and stay in bed just so I can be prepared to play.
Wow. Enough shopping for you. No
right,
Green
no
Hills,
more
no
shopping.
Divisoria for you.
Yeah, listen, I same thing. I remember when I came back from the Philippines. No, before I went to the Philippines, when I came back from the Philippines, Michael was with the Lakers. He had gotten traded to the Lakers. So I go to the LA and I'm in LA and I had never been to Beverly Hills or Santa Monica Beach or anything. And I'm asking my brother, Michael, hey man, this is your off day. Can you take me to Beverly Hills and we can go to Venice Beach and walk around? And my brother looked at me like, huh? Are you crazy? He said, do you know how hard we practice? We practice for 3 hours a day. I got to pay 20-something minutes backing up Kareem. He says, man, I got to stay off of my feet. And when he said that, I was like, now I get it. Because I had to do the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a championship year for the Lakers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and his rest did him good. What's next on the photos? Here's Rob.
My man. That's my man.
There
Rob.
you are. You and Rob were co-best players of the game. That's Romy Quintanar in the middle.
the
About
late
to
Romy
interview the two of you.
Quintanar.
He passed away as well, Romy.
Oh, wow.
So you're the only living guy from that,
In that
photo.
picture.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a
sad,
sobering thought right there.
Yeah. No, but there's Rob. He was a great import, man.
Yeah,
Ball
Rob
handling,
was taking
3-point
Steph
shooting.
Curry shots before Steph Curry was even born.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. His range was ridiculous. Unfortunately, he'd had a substance abuse problem, but he would have been in the NBA many years if it wasn't for that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that. I mean, they did pick him high. Denver did, but he didn't stick around. But yeah, we talked about his talent and how good he was. And there you are, best player of the game, co-best players. You probably got some sort of Jollibee hamburger gift certificate or something. It was a Jollibee best player of the game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was.
No, there was also a time they gave away rubbing alcohol.
Your family rubbing alcohol.
I remember it. Green Cross or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have Jollibee where you are right now, Andy? Do you still get to get a Jollibee every now and
There's
then?
a Jollibee in New York, in Manhattan.
Yeah, there is one.
No, I could find Tanduay rum though. I had some the other day.
Yeah, they recently
Tanduay just partnered with Milwaukee and who's the other team?
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Tanduay is partnering with the NBA teams now, so that's crazy. Okay, what's next on the slideshow? There's you.
There's
and
Ramon. Yeah.
Like I said, man, I was probably so happy because he probably had about 25 that night and just went to work on who was guarding him and probably won the game for us. That's why I was so happy,
Yeah.
man.
Well, there's Michael Young on the other picture.
But look at the caption, Andy, of that photo. It says Ramon Fernandez is the X factor, acting like a third import for Tanduay.
Yeah.
He was. Yeah, he was that good. He was averaging 20 a game. I think one of the lowest scoring imports was who was the guard for great taste?
Alvin Franklin.
Alvin Franklin was only averaging like 21 or 22, and he was an import.
Yeah.
So, Mon was averaging 20. So, yeah, he was an import.
Yeah, Alvin Franklin played with Lou Jackson.
Yeah.
Lou Jackson was the big import for great taste.
Was this Michael Young taking the winning shot against you guys over at the photo on the right?
Possibly.
Yeah, that's the image that I remember Michael Young. He just
jumping on the other side is Michael Hackett. So, yeah, the two Michaels, Michael Hackett and Michael Young.
Do you remember that game, Andy? That was the game that eliminated Tanduay.
Yeah, he talked about it earlier when you were having internet issues.
Sorry.
Yeah.
When you glitched.
Okay.
When you glitched.
Yeah. What's
next?
next?
We're going quickly through the photos. Here you are on the cover of Sports Weekly.
Yeah. And I got to ask about the headline on the second one, the sexiest import of all time.
Andy, you know what? I have to tell this story because when Andy was here, I remember all the lady fans and the not lady fans.
The fans who think they're ladies.
Yeah, the ones who think that they're ladies. They were screaming your name. They were the sexiest import of all time, written by who? Tessa Mines, right?
Yes, my college professor.
Oh, Tessa? Tessa wrote that?
Yeah.
Oh,
she's my college professor. Yeah.
Wow.
So she had a thing for you back then, the sexiest import of all time. What can you say about that?
Man, I don't even know how to. I have nothing to say about that other than hey, it's just one of those things. You read it and you kind of go, "Holy crap! What did I get myself into?"
Well, that's the price for keeping yourself in really good shape. I mean, look at that photo. Look at that smile and everything. Yeah, you captured the crowd.
And Tessa's probably gonna say, "Hey, Andy, you still look good."
When you see her, if you hear from her, tell her I said hello.
Okay, we will. We
we get to speak to her fairly often. She's still pretty active in the basketball circles, sports circles.
She's running a PR agency, one of the most successful PR agencies in the Philippines.
That's awesome. I hope the next time I come down, I'm gonna have you guys get some of the crew together so I can see everybody.
Right. Well, we'll take care of you when you get back here. What's the next photo? Oh, there's Klay.
Let's talk about this guy for a short while. Tell us about how you remember him growing up and then how great he is right now. How proud you are probably of him.
Oh man, I am so proud of him. Man, this kid. I remember the first time I actually played against him. I'd always see him when they were little kids and riding their little bicycles and on skateboards and all that kind of stuff. But then when he finally started maturing and getting more involved in basketball, I remember I went out to see my brother in Portland. Klay was only 13 at that time. And I went to see my brother and I went over to his house and I was anxious to see the boys. It was this Mikey, Klay, and Trace. And Trace is the one with the baseball career over here. But I remember Mikey and Klay, or Michael always talked about them and how good Mikey was. And Mikey was this and Mikey. And so I said, all right, I'm going to go out and I shot around with Mikey. And Mikey was okay, right? He was about 6'3", 6'4" at the time. He was only like 14, but I knew he was going to be tall. And then I came and I said, Klay, your turn. So Klay comes out and he's out there and he pulls up and hits a three. I was like, yeah, that's good. And, I'm not playing great D at this time. And he hits another three. So I go, okay. Yeah, that's just luck. All right. I'm going to play a little better defense on you this time and see if you can hit another. So I got up on him and he went and made a move and stepped back and hit the third three. Then I said, okay, now we're going to really play. And so we played like up to 5. And I couldn't believe how well he can shoot. And I remember I went into the house and I said, Michael, I don't know about Mikey, but that boy Klay can shoot, man. And that's the truth. I said, now no one knew he would be this guy who was one of the greatest shooters in the history of the game.
That's right.
We hoped that he would have a career that was similar to like a Kyle Korver, who was just known as a really good catch and shoot guy who made a living for 15 years. So to see what he's done with his career and become arguably one of the greatest shooters in the history of the game, nobody could have seen that.
Yeah. We hope he bounces back from the double injuries. Yes, it's been pretty bad luck for the past couple of seasons, but I know when you shoot as well as he does, I don't see any hitch when he gets back.
Well, I told him, I said, there are certain things in life, man, you'll never know. The silver lining in this you might never see for years to come. I said, but at some point, you'll look back and you'll understand why you had to go through this, and it'll all make sense. But I said, but right now it sucks. I know you want to play, but one day it'll make sense. But just do what you need to do to get yourself mentally right first, and the rest will follow.
Right. Okay, let's move on to the next photo. That's on Klay. Here we are.
Okay.
That's when we met. That's in the lobby of the hotel, Andy, back in 2013.
That's right.
Oh, Charlie, you put on.
And then the guy beside you on your
wide.
left. Yeah, the guy beside you on your left. You played against him. You played for Alaska when you were here.
Oh wow,
Played for
I don't
the
remember
Alaska
that.
team. He was Normal Black's teammate. His name's Frankie Lim. The other guy's a coach as well. That's Coach Ariel Van Guardia. We all happened to be sitting in the lobby. I saw Andy Thompson walk by, and I said, "That's Andy Thompson." I had no idea you were with the NBA and all of that. I didn't know. I didn't read about it yet. So I walked up to you and I said, "You're Andy Thompson." And I remember you said, "Yes, I am." And then we started talking about Tanduay and all of that. So I had to sneak in a photo opportunity with you. And then remember you asked me for Mon Fernandez, Freddie Ubalde, and Eli Capacio's telephone numbers, and I did give them to you. I emailed them to you that same evening, I think, or the day after. So so you were able to see Eli, right?
Yes.
I remember because I saw you guys talking at the game, and Eli Capacio, who was the team captain at the time when you played here, and he unfortunately passed away a couple of years after that.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, we're all getting old, huh? We're all getting old. I look a lot younger back then too.
Charlie looks like he was a lot younger now.
It looked like he just came from the hotel buffet.
That's about 15, 20 pounds ago, man. So proud that I've lost all of that. Yeah, but there I am talking to Andy Thompson. It was a thrill for me, of course, Andy. I remember I told you I was a Tanduay fan. Let's move on. That's too much exposure for me and my. But this is something we need to touch on before we do let you go in a bit. Chicago Bulls. Yeah, you thought about it in '87. It was your brainchild and all of that. Just quickly, why was it significant to you, and why did you suggest it?
Well, quickly, because I've gotten to know Michael Jordan through a lot of his DVDs. We did Michael Jordan's Playground, Michael Jordan Come Fly With Me, Airtime. We did all of his DVDs back then. We had a contract. We did 5 of them, and I worked on a lot of them. And he got to know me because he had a lot of respect for my brother Michael Thompson. He used to spell his name with a Y, M-Y-C-H-A-L, and his mom was like, no, write the name the way it's supposed to be written. And I remember him telling me that story the first time I met him, and so we bonded very quickly because of his respect for my brother. And over the years, and spent a lot of time with him doing the Dream Team. I documented the whole Dream Team experience from training camp to Barcelona. So we really spent a lot of time over the years, and then all the championships up to the one in '97. And I remember seeing the crowds of people, especially in the Olympics, and then in his last couple of years, the people around him and the world around him was always just swirling, like whirling dervish of energy. And I never really caught that the way I wanted to. And so in '97, when they won their 5th, I really felt the team was not going to come back. They were going to break up. And I went to Adam Silver and I said, Adam, if this team comes back, we have to document Michael's potentially last year. I said, it will be a crime if we allow him to retire and we don't document a full season with him and the Bulls. And he loved the idea. And that's where he, right on the spot, greenlit the project and said, if they come back, let's do it. Fortunately, they came back, and that's when the project began in the fall of 1997.
Why did it take so long from '97 to 2020 to produce this epic?
Guys, you believe in fate, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody believes that there are certain things for certain people, right? Just like you said before, when I took that job, that I wanted that job with the sanitation department, but it wasn't there. And then the NBA called a couple of hours later. That was for me. Well, over the years, we tried to make the film happen, but for one reason or another, Michael Jordan came back in 2001. So that he didn't want to have anything to do with a film coming out in the middle of his second career with the Wizards. And so I got the cameras again and followed him for 2 more years in Washington. Then he retired in 2003. It ended in such a sour note. He walked away from the game and was just so down on basketball and the way it ended for him. He basically said, we're now working on the project. So that went away. And so now that's 5 years after the fact. And then 2 years later, he joins the Charlotte Hornets. So now he's an owner. And so once he became an owner, then everything was pushed to the back burner. And it wasn't until year 18, which was 2018, we finally heard something from a producer who was interested in it. And he was the one who went to Michael, got a meeting with him, and pitched the idea that, hey, it's time. It's time for the kids to see who you are. And in 2018, it was greenlit. And fortunately, in 2020, in the pandemic, with everything just being shut down and sports was taken away from everybody, this was the right place and the right time for this film to come out. And that's why I say it's fate.
Yeah. Timing is everything.
23 years later, right?
Timing is everything, and obviously it was quite the show. People were anticipating the episodes as the weeks went by, and then the buzz was all about it for
I
at
had
least a
some
month
pirated
afterwards.
copies. I had some pirated copies before they came out, so I already
They're
knew
going to
what's
sue
going
you.
to
They're going
happen.
to sue you for that.
gonna
Anyway,
sue you.
so
Don't say
and
that.
I don't
Andy,
have
of
it.
course,
I don't have
Andy,
it.
you were
Somebody
all
else
over.
had it.
You were all over the talk shows. You were all over. You've guested in a couple of the local shows as well, talking about that entire experience. But let's talk about other things that you've done in the past. You did the Dr. J documentary as well. That must have been great. Working with Dr. J. We're more of, I can probably relate more to Dr. J than I can to Michael Jordan, because of how great he was when I was a kid. But that also won an Emmy. Is that right? The Dr. J documentary.
Yeah,
So
Dr.
J,
Dr. J's agent and my brother had the same agent. When my brother first got into the NBA as a #1 pick, Dr. J's agent was my brother's agent, Irving Weiner. And so Dr. J would come to my brother's basketball camp in Minnesota. And that's where I first met Dr. J when I was in college. And I worked as a counselor, and Dr. J flew in, and I remember Dr. J was Jordan before Jordan. He was everything. He was the man that I wanted to play like. I fashioned my game after. Trust me, I wore cons, everything because of Dr. J. So meeting him when I was in college was unbelievable. So later on, when I got to the NBA and we knew each other because of the connection with the agent, and seeing him over the years, and then finally coming full circle, we were able to do that documentary with him, was a dream come true, man.
Yeah.
Well, so is this. You're holding an Emmy. That's a dream come true as well.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we were talking about it before the show. When I got a trophy for some work that I did as well, it's like the Oscars in the Philippines. The moment I got the trophy, there was a major flashback from everything that led to that point. I was asking you, did that same thing happen to you when you got that Emmy award?
Wow. The Emmys happen where you hear the buzz, right? I always said this. I always said once we shot Michael's last shot, when he hit that shot in Utah, and they won the game, and we got back to our office, and I turned to my other co-workers and I said, we have just captured, I think, the greatest sports documentary in the world. And I'm not kidding, because we spent a whole year with him. And I equate it to as if somebody was following Tiger Woods the year he got the 4 majors.
Right.
With the slam. Imagine if a crew had followed Tiger Woods, who was the greatest athlete, 10 years ago, with the biggest Q rating in the world, and someone followed him for those 4 majors, and it's all in the can. You would say we have got the greatest sports documentary of all time. What it's like to be Tiger Woods in the middle of the storm and winning the greatest feat in golf history. Right. Well, that's what it felt like when we shot and we wrapped that shoot in '98. That we felt that we had captured the greatest sports documentary, period. Here's the thing, though. Back then, documentaries are only 90 minutes long, 2 hours at the most.
That's right.
And that's what everybody was pitching at that time. We would do a 2-hour documentary. So fortunately, it never got made because Mike Tolan, the producer who basically came on board, he came on board and said, we want to do a 10-part episodic of Michael's entire career, but use the 98 season as the thematic that strings the whole thing together.
Right.
And so when I saw the concept, I knew it was going to be one of the greatest documentaries of all time. So I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just saying I knew what we had, but I'm just so happy that what Mike was able to do with it, with Jason here, the director was able to do with it. And they took the vision that we had and they made it bigger and better than we ever hoped. And so the Emmy was the crowning thing that so many people have poured their lives into over the last 20 years and the last 3 years, that it felt like validation. Like I always felt it. And now it's just confirmation that yes, other people see it and believe it too.
Well, plus the product was pretty easy to sell, right? Michael Jordan, it's not hard to sell a guy like Michael Jordan.
Oh man, listen, everybody thinks that they can do one now. I think Magic is working on one. I heard there's another player, I think Shaq might be doing, everybody wants episodic, multi episodes, but you don't have we had a library of Michael access that he had given us over the years that was bigger than anybody else's. It's not easy to do 10 episodes if you don't have access. And I think a lot of these companies now are going to try to stretch and make these 9-10 episodes, and it's not going to be nowhere near as good.
One quick question, Andy. Was there any story or scene there that you regretted that you had to leave out from the Last Dance because there simply wasn't enough space or time to include it? I wished they would have gotten into the story of Michael and this young woman, this young girl that he befriended, who was born with cerebral palsy, and she had gotten to be really close to Michael in his last 5 or 6 years with the Bulls. And Michael and her developed a really serious bond and a really great relationship. And quietly, and no one knew about this, Michael paid for a lot of her surgeries over the years. Multiple surgeries that would help repair things or to help her live a more comfortable life. And she was wheelchair bound, but she had this beautiful spirit, man, and just this beautiful person and this beautiful relationship that her and Michael shared. And we were able to capture that. And but for some reason, the director didn't want to make that a part of the film. But I thought it should have been a part because it showed Michael's humanity. Because as you've seen in the film, Michael can be really salty at times. He can be tough to do. But off the court, man, Michael was the most giving person I've ever seen. I would not want to be Michael Jordan for 1 week, maybe for a day, but for 1 week of people bugging him and the requests and the phone calls and but he was always so nice to people in spite of all the people just reaching and grabbing at him. And the fact that he did this to this girl and made her life and prolonged her life because of all of the medical assistance he gave through his charitable giving. I wish that would have been told because that would have been
It would have been nice. It would have been a nice touch to that documentary. But Andy, you did tell us top of the show that you, with your busy schedule, you have something to attend to now. So, do you have a couple of minutes left, or do you need to go?
A couple of minutes. Yep. I already told my wife, so she's being patient.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much, Mrs. Thompson. But yeah, it's been a great chat. Obviously, we haven't really delved into a lot of things that we wanted to talk about right here. So I'm actually going to do a public invite right now. Now that everyone's watching, I'm going to say you need to come back for a second part one of these days. sometime down the road when you have time to chat with us.
Let me ask you this: why don't you ask your fans if they want me back? They should let you know. And if they say yeah, they want me back, I'll come back.
Okay, I will do that.
I
We're
want,
gonna
I
post
want
that
to
on our
have you
Facebook
and
page.
Michael on the same show. Michael Thompson and Andy Thompson
Yeah.
on the same
Yeah,
show.
but
I can get him.
Noel,
Yeah.
Charlie,
Want me
and
to get
Sid
my brother?
definitely want you back.
Yeah.
Noel, Charlie,
Yeah.
and Sid want you back, Andy. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna go through just a quick bunch of quick questions for you. You just tell me your choices. I'm gonna give you some choices. You tell me who you choose. No explanations. Let's just go, rapid fire. I do this at the end of most of our shows. It's called X's or O's. I'm gonna ask you, Billy Ray Bates or Rob Williams?
Rob Williams. Only because that's my teammate, man. You got to stick with the blood.
All right.
Okay.
Michael Hackett or Michael Young?
Boy, one guy beat you up and just made your life miserable, and the other guy just never stopped, never saw a shot he didn't like, and just shot every time he got it. So I
You can call
would actually rather get beat up by Michael Hackett.
Okay. All right. How about Dexter Shouse or Harold Keeling?
Oh boy, Harold Keeling was super fast. Dexter could jump out the gym. I would go. Dexter Shouse, man, was box office. That guy
All
could
right. Yeah.
dunk on anybody.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And he was here on the show
Right.
2 weeks ago. Norman
Yeah.
Black or Michael Hackett?
Norman Black. Tell you a quick story. I remember one game I had like 38 points and 28 rebounds, right? And I was like,
Okay.
damn, I was playing against my Norman Black. And I looked at my stats sheet. I was like, yeah, man, because Norman Black's a good rebounder. I was like, man, I played well tonight. And then I saw Norman Black had about 30 and 35 rebounds.
Still out rebounded.
That's true.
He out rebounded me by like 7. I was like, how did he get 35 rebounds? So Norman Black.
Okay, Norman Black. How about Willie Generalao or Onchi De La Cruz?
Man, Onchi was Onchi gives you the ball more, so I go Onchi.
Okay. JB Yango or Padim Israel?
Badim, he was. I was closer to Badim probably than anybody else on the team, and Freddie
Okay.
Obaldi.
All
Freddie
right.
Obaldi too.
Interesting.
How about this?
Yeah.
David Stern or Adam Silver?
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the best answer.
Lakers or Bulls?
They're equally as brilliant, man. They're completely different, but they are some of the smartest people that I've ever dealt with. They play chess while everybody else is playing checkers.
That's right. David Stern
Right.
is my peg for a commissioner. Lakers
Yeah.
or Bulls?
Bulls. Anything.
Bulls.
Anything.
Okay.
You kidding
How
me?
about Michael
Jordan.
or Klay?
Oh, listen. I got more respect for my brother. Obviously, he opened the doors for me, and he's got 2 rings. He's been to 4 championships. Klay has 3 rings, went to 5 straight NBA finals, has a gold medal from the Olympics, and a world championship gold medal. So Klay is easily winning that.
Yeah, all right. How about Kevin McHale or Randy Brewer?
Oh, Kevin McHale, man. Kevin McHale is probably the second greatest power forward. No, not second, third greatest power forward of all time.
Right. Magic or Kareem?
Kareem.
Yeah.
As much as I love Magic, and Magic is the man, Kareem's got what, 6 MVPs, six championships,
titles.
3 straight college championships. He changed.
Right.
And the
he
sky
changed
hook.
the game. The
He's
sky
the GOAT
hook.
for me.
Yeah. He should be considered the GOAT up there with Jordan and LeBron. And
Yeah,
Charlie and I
definitely.
agree that he's the GOAT, actually.
Yep,
More than
Yep.
Jordan.
He doesn't
or
get talked
LeBron.
about enough, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't get talked about.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's for me.
So
We all have our own opinions.
Let me ask you, Charlie, who's on your Mount Rushmore for the right now?
For the
Who's your
NBA?
Mount Rushmore? Yes.
For the NBA, I have Kareem at center. I have Larry Bird at 1 forward. I probably have, I'd say Elgin Baylor at the other forward. I'd put Magic Johnson at 1 guard and Michael Jordan as the other.
That's 5.
Only 4.
That's
Yeah,
fine. You
only
only need 4.
Mount Rushmore. It's Mount Rushmore.
Oh, 4, yeah, just 4. Okay, I'll take out Elgin Baylor then.
Mhm.
Wow.
So Kareem, Magic, Jordan, and Larry Bird.
Oh my goodness. Bill Russell's got 11 rings.
I know.
I have
But,
a Bill Russell.
Bill Chamberlain's got every record.
I understand,
Right?
but I had to pick
Jordan
one center.
and Magic.
Kareem for me.
That's my Mount Rushmore.
That's yours. Yeah.
Who are those?
Well-
Who did you have? Russell and Chamberlain?
Yes.
Russell Chamberlain.
And
Magic and Jordan.
Magic
Yeah.
and Jordan. Yeah, okay. Hey, nobody's better there. I mean, everybody has their own. But that's a
I
great
actually
score
have
as well.
Stockton over Magic in my Mount Rushmore.
What?
Really?
That's me. Yeah.
Okay. Just a couple more. Mon Fernandez or Freddie Hubalde?
Mon Fernandez. To me, he's the
Okay.
greatest Filipino player I've ever seen.
All right. Yep, agree. Same here on our side too. He's the Kareem for me in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Okay. Then just a couple of more. Robert De Niro or Al Pacino?
Oh, Robert De Niro. Al Pacino, he overacts to me.
Okay. All right. And the last one is Denzel Washington or Will Smith?
Denzel. He is, to
Denzel.
me, he's my favorite actor.
Denzel.
He's my favorite
All
actor.
right.
You know, I met him last year when I was at a Laker game. Rick Fox, he's a fellow Bahamian, was
Right.
at the game with him, and he introduced me to Denzel, and he says, "Hey man, this is Michael Thompson's brother." And he didn't say Michael Thompson's your brother. He was like, "Oh, so Klay is your nephew?" I was like, all my life, I've been known as Michael's little brother. That's why.
Right.
Oh, this is Michael's little brother. Now I'm known as Klay Thompson's uncle.
That's right. I wonder what Michael has to say about that. Michael's one funny guy as well. He talks a lot of funny stuff.
Now let's get Andy back and
Denzel,
probably
man,
bring in
Denzel.
Michael and Clay. How about that, right?
Yeah, I
That'd be
know.
great.
Let's get the whole Thompson clan in here. Yeah, but I know you need to go, Andy. We kind of sped up this episode, but it's been great. Nice stories. There's a lot more. I'm going to post it on our page. I'm going to ask the fans if they want to, and I'm going to show you the screenshots and everything because I'm pretty sure they're going to say yes. But that's all the time we have, guys, for this episode of Eternity of Basketball with Andy Thompson. And hopefully we can get you sometime in the near future to come back. Let's talk a little more about The Last Dance and inside stuff and the Dream Team and all of those things that you've been a part of. The bubble, the NBA bubble that you were there. So you got to see a lot of things behind the scenes. So there's lots of stuff that we can still talk about here. Hopefully we can sit down once again very soon. But for now, episode 69 is in the books. It's Noel's favorite episode, 69. And in 20 games back in 1986, he played here in the Philippines and was able to score 23.5 points per game, 13.9 rebounds. He had a high of 38 points in his PBA career for the Tanduay Rum Makers. But now he's with NBA Entertainment, and there's so much more to talk about. Hopefully, it'll be in the near future. So for Sid Ventura, Noel Zarate, Aaron Aronson behind the scenes, I'm Charlie Cuna. We're thanking you, Andy, for joining us on this episode of AEOB. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks for having me. This was fun, man. I can't wait till we do it again.
All right, that's great. So, we have that. We're going to do it again soon. All our friends and followers here on AEOB, thank you for joining us for this quick episode of episode 69. AEOB, it's in the books. We're signing off. See you soon.
See you too, man.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
You're welcome. Anytime.
All right.